Yeah, I think it's difficult to pinpoint where and what happened. Obviously don't know too much about the Hamilton cases just now myself, so I think it's just one of those issues we're going to have to deal with as we go along.
Is it something that you will emphasise to the players, just to be careful about goal celebrations?
When you score a goal, Jonathan, you don't really know what you're doing. So it's quite a hard one. I think emotions are running high. You're fighting, you're scrapping for things, and something I will say, but it's very hard to stop somebody the enjoyment and elation of scoring a goal for your team. So it's a real difficult one. He seems to have gone still.
Just on that one, Callum, see in terms of the St Mirren situation with the three goalkeepers, obviously all been ruled out for the game last weekend. Would you make any arrangements now just to ensure that your goalkeepers are separated that wee bit, so there's not that risk that if one of them catches it, they all catch it and they're all ruled out? Have you taken any sort of precautions that way?
I think working with Paul Mathers, they kind of train that way anyway. They're training hard, but they're obviously with distancing as well. It's probably easier to work in a smaller group, so they can do it anyway. So Paul does it anyway. He kind of makes sure they're not that close together when they're doing their training. They obviously do a lot of handling and stuff with the ball, but that's obviously a precaution. Again, it's one of those situations. Goalie's a unique position, so very, very difficult to sort of separate everybody because you're in a contact sport. You talk about celebrations. It is a contact sport, so they're contacting just as much as people are going to go for celebrations and stuff. You're still in contact in a game. That's just the reality of football and life. So again, goalies, when they train, they do social distance as much as they can in training. And that's just the way you have to do it. And it's unfortunate if it happens. Hopefully it'll never happen at St Johnstone. But realistically, probably probability will at some point.
I mean, you said last week that you were expecting the season to be sort of finished on time, and you were hoping that they would get games played regardless if there was maybe a case or two. But would you sort of change your view on that in light of what happened at St Mirren?
Yeah, I think I'm also a positive person. I wanted the games to finish, and I think you can't stop football for one or two cases. Per team, I think it's when it becomes a little bit more than that. I think you've got to have a look at it. I don't know the numbers. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert on it. So, but I think when you come up to 4 or 5 cases and it's spreading, I think it's something then you've got to look at. If it's an isolated case, I think you can't stop the game for an isolated case. I think you can take all precautions and make sure it doesn't spread and be safe. But I think, it's a hard one to answer. If I've got my 5 best players out with COVID, then I want a game off.
Thanks, buddy.
Callum, do you think there should be some sort of global guidance? Because we were talking at work about the fact that obviously the bubbles which were created kind of back in June for you guys to return to training, which wasn't even full contact in those days. Players have got kids who are back at primary school now. Their wives are back at work in the workplace. The idea of this kind of biosecure bubble is kind of burst, if you like, and that we're just going to see more cases, as the season progresses.
Yes, again, as you say, but I'm not an expert in it, so I don't really know. I just think for me, players have to take as much precaution as they can, which they'll try to do in the guidelines are set out. I think you're right with cases will obviously rise with people going back to school, work, universities, etc. So things will happen. Obviously, coming up to flu season as well. So it's an unknown again. I think it's very hard to set the guidelines out. I think, again, I'm not the governing body here, so I wouldn't really want to comment on what they decide to do. I just think at the club, at the training ground, we have to take every precaution we can not for it to spread. There will be cases, as you say, as family members will get it and temperatures, etc. But we need to just make sure at the club, what we can affect, we can do the best we can to make sure the cases don't spread if it happens.
On a more positive note, the test.
Something else about COVID there.
I know the tests went by really well on Saturday in Dingwall, obviously against your opponents this weekend and through Pittodrie. It's a shame they've been paused, but at least that's in the bank now, as it were, for when the cases come down and the test can get back up and running. So maybe, even though it doesn't feel like it, it's still a step closer to getting the fans back in.
Yeah, definitely. You look at it, obviously it's a big ground. The big grounds, they're 10,000 McDermott's attending the stadium. If they fit a few fans into it, I'm glad the testing went well, because obviously you'll be able to do it here. It allows St Johnstone fans to come back into the stadium and watch games, which is so important for football, and probably life itself, and get people back watching games and entertaining, well, hopefully entertaining, and getting them to have something to look forward to.
Both you and County have probably not had the results that you would have wanted from the performances. I think particularly yourselves. I mean, the contributions in games, it's just been that final finishing touch again at the weekend. Plenty of chances to have got something from the match at Motherwell when I was looking back at the game. I guess that's the simple bit. You just need to convert these chances, and you'll be flying.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with Stevie May and Chris Kane now back up and running again, so I've got obviously more firepower there. I've got options. And then for me, I've got to look at what striker wants the jersey, who wants the play, because again, I'm putting the back of them really well. It's up to them to deliver, and hopefully for me, one of them hits a purple patch. It makes my team selection easy. So they know themselves. They all want to score. So hopefully the way we're doing, and then we can bet the chances. We'll get some good positive. That's football.
Callum, I'll maybe just stop you there. Dave?
Hello.
Can you mute yourself whilst you're making your lunch?
So you're late, Dave.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get in.
It's technology. It's technology. It's too much for me. Can we bring back face to face? Socially distanced pressers, please.
Somebody mute him.
I do apologise. Right, I'm muted.
Good. Just briefly then again, Callum, looking for one of your strikers to hit a purple patch, and that should make all the difference, get you on a decent run of wins.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's they're all working extremely hard. It's good that I've got the options. For me, obviously, I want Steve May and Chris Kane out for a wee bit, so to get them back up to speed, to get them back fitter, again, it's a positive for the team and the squad. It's good for me to have a little bit of competition for places as well. So again, sometimes you've got to, I'll always support the strikers if they're in the right position, getting chances, and then hopefully winning them, the goals will come.
Callum, is an extra striker something that you're still looking to bring in?
I think you ask every manager, Andy. I think it's always a striker. It's always somebody to put the ball in the back of the net. We're always looking for players. So it's something we'll continue to do. And if something comes up, I think it's better than what we have, or something that can improve the squad or different to what we have, then hopefully we'll get the opportunity to do something.
Are you close?
We're always in discussions with 3 or 4 players. So hopefully something will happen next couple of weeks.
How's your squad looking ahead of the weekend?
Callum Booth's out, so good to have a sort of full range to pick from. So quite happy with that.
How long will Callum do it for?
I think he'll hopefully start training next week, so not long. So just a minor Achilles issue, so he should be fine by next week.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
For your lunch, obviously, Zoom obviously wasn't impressed with my questions and chucked me off there at the start. So apologies if this has already been asked. But back to the COVID stuff, just very briefly, sorry. In terms of all this, players catching it and all the rest of it, and potentially more, winter's coming and all the rest of it, would you be at all surprised if this season got suspended later down the road?
No. No, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Jonathan. I think if it obviously coming to flu season, etc., I think when you get a batch of cases or a batch of people isolating, I think then it becomes a real difficult one. It's for the SPFL and the governing body to decide what the best course of action is, and they'll take the appropriate steps. I think if you get, obviously, a lot of clubs getting people out, can't train, isolating, then it might become an issue. But again, that's for further down the line. And hopefully not. Hopefully we can all look after, we can all be lucky, a little bit safe, and we can continue to play.
But you wouldn't be surprised if the season got suspended later down the road?
I don't know, John. I don't know the answer to that one. I think, it is the flu season, which is very similar. So I'm hoping that none of the players, but again, it's difficult, as you said before, the families and people are back to work, back to school. So there will be cases, there will be incidents. So I think every team will have their problems, and, obviously looking for clear guidelines from the SPFL when that happens.
Just finally for me, Callum, I know there's a sense, in the best possible way, that people are kind of trying to navigate their way through this whole unprecedented times the best way that they can. But just looking a little bit further ahead, obviously the League Cup starts at the start of October. You're facing the likes of Kelty, Hearts, Brecon, City, Peterhead, lower league teams, obviously. Do you, as a kind of Premiership manager, have to seek assurances that these clubs are also going to be going through all the kind of same, or at least a certain standard of safety procedures to make sure that your players
I definitely think so. I think because if we're testing all the time, I think we're testing for a reason to play. We want to play, we want to continue playing. So I think you would like to think that the governing bodies, who's ever deciding, make sure that it's a safe return to play the Betfred Cup. That's what I want, and I think that's what everybody wants, because we don't want any games called off with multiple cases of COVID-19. So I think you want to know that everyone's safe, everyone's doing the right things so the games can take place and we can go ahead with the Betfred Cup.
Has there been any communication about the Betfred Cup yet in terms of all the kind of protocols?
Not that I know of just now, Jonathan. So I've got 3 games I need to win first, and then I'll look at that.
Good luck with them.
Yes, Jonathan.
I'm just a couple for me, if that's okay.
Just looking at Saturday's game against Ross County, both sides striving for a bit of consistency. What sort of a game can you expect against them?
Yeah, tough game. I think obviously watched them quite a lot this season. I think they played a lot. I thought they were excellent against. I know the scoreline was 5-0, but I didn't think it really reflected the performance from Ross County. So, a tough game. They've got a lot of good players. They've added in defence. They've made 2 or 3 new signings there. So, it's going to be a tough game. We've got to make sure we're fully prepared and fully anticipating what's going to happen and make sure we perform to the best of our abilities.
Yeah, and as just looking at the way results have gone through this season,
that you don't give teams a head start. So maybe giving yourselves a wee mountain to climb, aren't you?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Dave. That's cheers. I think for me, I think it is hard when you go goal down. Unfortunately, we've done the last 4 games. Obviously, all games have been 1-0. We've obviously lost the goal 3 times. The first goal, 3 times. I think even though there's last-minute ones, and obviously Motherwell was 3rd minute, and I think we're performing to a level. I'd just like to see us have the opportunity to sort of get that early lead and then build on the early lead and give ourselves an easier chance. It's very difficult against Motherwell when they went 1-0 up. They shut up shop and defended really well, and we find it hard to break down. So, yeah, something we've been working on this week. What can we do to try and get that first goal? So, hopefully we can get it on Saturday.
And just so far,
3 signings so far this season, Callum. Will you have to move players out before you can move in and have to do a bit of wheeling and dealing, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's part of this. It's part of obviously managing the squad. It's what players are going to play, who can we get in, who can we get out. Working hard. Obviously, we've got 2 or 3 players just now we're speaking to. So whether that happens or not, we'll wait and see. But yeah, working hard behind the scenes to try and add 1 or 2 more players into the squad. As we've all talked about COVID issues, I just need to make sure the squad is strong enough to cope with 2 or 3 missing.